Welcome back to another episode of the AA Sports Podcast. My name's Art, here with my brother Alex.
What's going on, guys? What's going on?
Alex, we're recording this right after UFC 257. Big night of fights, not only in the UFC, but on Showtime Championship Boxing. We'll have another podcast out Sunday morning going over those boxing fights. But right now we want to do a quick post-fight recap, instant reaction. After UFC 257, where we saw a lot of great fights and we saw a couple upsets, starting with the main event. I mean, let's jump right into it. We had Dustin Porier knock out Conor McGregor in the second round. Alex, what did you think of the fight?
It was a good fight for as long as it lasted. And tip my hat off to Porier. He pulled it off. We
talked about Porier having to grind his way towards the top. He's fought the best guys. I don't think he skipped anybody on his way to the top. He just kept fighting the best guys after best guy after best guy available for him. And I think that experience showed in this fight. McGregor, I thought controlled the first round fairly well. Got taken down, but was able to get up without taking damage. In the clinch, it was kind of even. But when they were at range, McGregor was landing some good punches.
Yeah.
At range. What surprised you about Porier and what his game plan was against McGregor?
I think what surprised me was the calf kicks that he threw. I felt like in that first round, I didn't expect for Porier to take him down in order for him to weather that storm. I think that played a major key in him. I don't know, just being able to get out of that first round, not getting caught cold, and then he just, throwing those calf kicks. It just seemed like Conor wasn't in that karate stance that he usually comes out with. He wasn't like light on his feet. He was more in that boxing, like bully type stance where he just comes and he's real flat footed, and he couldn't get away from those calf kicks.
And excuse me, and one of the earlier undercard fights, I believe it was Muradov versus Sanchez. They talked about how the karate stance kind of leaves you a little more open to those calf kicks. You think McGregor being in that karate stance would have made it worse, or you think it would have helped him with his striking?
I don't know. It just didn't look like the Conor that I'm used to seeing. It just looked like he was more flat-footed. He didn't really try to switch to orthodox at all. Usually he's comfortable doing it. I think he tried doing that in the second round, and he just didn't look comfortable. He switched back right away. So, and I felt like he just threw that left hand too much. I felt like Porier was able to time him with that counter hook. And, that's what happened.
Looking ahead, let's start with McGregor first. Looking ahead, how much longer do you think he fights? It's kind of, weird to say it, but he doesn't have to fight.
He doesn't have to.
He doesn't have to. He has money. He has investments, whatever. But if he wants to fight, what kind of fight do you see him fighting in the future? Like,
I really don't know. I mean, if he's gonna come back, I feel like he should get at least 2 fights just because he's been inactive and see where he can go from here. But I think stay away from some of the top guys at 155 right now. I think it's just a Shark Tank because there's guys like Charles Oliveira, guys like Justin Gaethje, Porier, Chandler that can really crack, and it just looked like Conor wasn't himself in there. It looked like that inactivity really got to him. He just didn't look comfortable.
So you mentioned that top tier of lightweights. Let me mention some of the second tier lightweights. That would be like right under those guys that you talked about. Tony Ferguson.
Yeah.
Good fight. Somebody we saw on the undercard, Dan Hooker.
You know what? Dan Hooker would be a good fight for Conor to come back and fight with, because I feel like Dan Hooker's he's more of a good stand-up fighter, but he doesn't have that type of power where he can, drop you or knock you out in one shot. So I think that would be a good fight for him to come back for.
And one last name that really interests me is a guy who's on the rise, Paul Felder.
Paul Felder? Oh, well, Paul Felder's kind of on his way out.
Well, I mean, on his way out, but he's ranked in the top 10.
Yeah, he's
had some good wins. I mean,
yeah, he's had some good wins, but I think the last fight that he fought was against Dan Hooker in a war, but he lost that fight.
Yes, I remember he lost that fight, but it wasn't like a shutout loss. It was a war. He's still ranked in the top 10. So that's what I'm saying. Like, that would be like Paul Felder would be the lowest I would go for McGregor. Anybody after that, Kevin Lee, Kinta, guys like that, I wouldn't want to see McGregor fighting. But yeah, Ferguson, Hooker, Felder, I think those are 3 names that we could see McGregor fighting. And for Poirier, I mean, let's be real. The talk has been all week about what Khabib Nurmagomedov is going to do. Now that McGregor lost and Poirier looked like he did, I mean, Nurmagomedov already beat Poirier fairly convincingly, and Nurmagomedov has beaten everybody fairly convincingly. Do you see Nurmagomedov Khabib coming back?
Not for Poirier. I feel like Poirier has no chance against a guy like Khabib. I felt none of these guys have any chance against Khabib. Not from what I saw, what Khabib did to Gaethje. None of these guys stand a chance anymore. If this is how it's gonna play out, I just feel Khabib's a different level.
So
maybe Charles Oliveira is probably the guy that'll give him the best fight, because I feel like he has really good jiu-jitsu and his stand-up game is pretty good as well. I don't know how his cardio is because he's fought in 3-round fights, but he's on a win streak. What is he, like a 8-fight win streak, 9-fight win streak? And we just saw what he did to Tony Ferguson. So, I mean, I think Charles Oliveira, people better look out for Charles Oliveira. And Chandler's an Olympian? So maybe Chandler can also give him a good fight. But, I mean, Khabib's just a different level.
So, as for Poirier, let's say Khabib doesn't come back and he vacates the lightweight title. Who would you like to see Poirier fight for that lightweight title? Because in my estimation, Poirier is next in line for a title shot. And not against Khabib, but if it's vacated, who would you like to see him fight?
Him. I feel like him versus Charles Oliveira.
Yeah,
that's what I think personally. Just because I felt Chandler came from another organization, and I feel like he should at least get one more fight in, and then whoever wins from Poirier versus Charles Oliveira, then maybe Chandler can get a fight with one of those guys if he wins his next fight.
You know what excites me about Oliveira is that we've seen this mixture of guys fight. We've seen Poirier McGregor now. We've seen Poirier Nurmagomedov. We've seen McGregor Nurmagomedov, and Oliveira just kind of snuck his way in.
Yeah.
To now he's like, okay, well, it's my turn, and which one of you guys am I going to take on? Don't forget, we still have Justin Gaethje, who Nurmagomedov dominated, but against Poirier, against McGregor, against Oliveira would also be great fights. So
yeah, definitely.
There's a lot of good fights to be made at 155, towards the top, and then we talk about that second tier of lightweight. Before we move on, do you have any last comments on Poirier McGregor?
Not really. I mean, I think Dustin Poirier fought a good fight. I thought he did exactly what he needed to do to win the fight. I didn't think he was going to be able to do it. That was just my opinion. I thought that Conor McGregor was going to be able to get him out of there. But from what I saw, he hurt Poirier several times. But
yes, he did.
It just seemed like that stance that he came in with, he just got too confident. Like you're throwing that left hand, you're throwing that straight left, and you're leaving your hand down to get countered. Mm-hmm. You're dropping it back down to the pocket. Something that these are basic things that they teach you. I'm not a professional fighter. I'll say that. But I'm just saying I feel like that's just basic things that they teach you. And I think he just got confident. And that's when guys get confident, they start doing that. They don't move their head. They drop their hands down to their pocket. They rely too much on power. And things like this happen when you get confident.
I'm going to give a little more credit on the leg kicks. I think the leg kicks didn't allow Conor to move around like he wanted to. We've seen Conor counter with that little step back left hand. He just didn't have any movement in his right leg to to counter, to move laterally, to step back, nothing. He just couldn't. His right leg was just stuck from all those calf kicks. And Poirier was able to take advantage. And you could see McGregor backed himself up to the cage, and he could not get off the cage. I know the knockout happened very quickly, but like you saw no lateral side-to-side movement from McGregor. He just stood there and tried to, box while leaning on the cage. And Poirier was able to take advantage. So props to Poirier. Definitely looking forward to seeing him fight again. I'm a big Poirier fan, just like I said in the last podcast. The grind to get to the top, man. Nothing was given to him. He definitely has earned everything that he's gotten, and I'm excited to see him fight for the world title at 155.
Sounds good.
Moving on to the undercard, we were talking about the second tier of fighters a little bit, and Dan Hooker, of course, coming into this fight was ranked number 6. Coming off a tough loss to Poirier in a bloody war. And then he takes on newcomer Michael Chandler, and Chandler blitzes him in the first round. What'd you think? What'd you think of Michael Chandler's performance?
You know what? I thought Michael Chandler looked good. I mean, he didn't show too much because it was more like he caught Dan Hooker with one shot and dropped him and then just stopped him. So
Finished him,
yeah, but he looked in really good shape. He looked like he was just game. I mean, I felt like he was real comfortable in there with the distance because Dan Hooker's 6 foot, he's 5'6", and it seemed like the distance, the range didn't bother him. So he was able to get on the inside. He threw the straight right to the body. Again, the same thing that the basics that they teach you is when you pull out or when you're backing up, don't drop your hand. Dan Hooker dropped his hand and he got caught with a good left hook. And that's just what happens when you just make mistakes sometimes. It happens in the fight game.
Dan Hooker was throwing those, same as Poirier, those little calf kicks, trying to land them. But I think he landed like 1 or 2, and then Chandler right away adjusted and was able to make him miss a couple.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you said, Chandler came so strong, and Hooker didn't know what to do. Like, he didn't go to the left, to the right, nothing. He went straight back to try to avoid that right hand. And, like you said, you back straight back with your hands down, you're going to get caught.
It just seemed like Dan Hooker was frozen by the moment. It kind of looked like he let Michael Chandler walk him down. Like, he let Michael Chandler have that illusion that he is the stronger guy and that he hits harder than him and one shot can knock him out. And that's definitely what happened.
So you think he gave him too much respect? I
think so. I really do. Usually Dan Hooker's more of a guy that really, throws his combinations. He's able to put them together very well. Even in this fight, he wasn't able to really throw much. I mean, he kind of just tried to stay his range, move around, and didn't really throw his combinations. I think he knew that one shot could probably put him out.
Yeah, and I mean, Michael Chandler, there's talk about his wrestling. His striking is definitely, it's hard to see for a UFC fan. Oh, well, he just caught him with the right hand and, finished him off. But Michael Chandler's been doing this for a long time. He's been at the top of the game, not in the UFC, but he's been at the top of his game for a very long time. So for him to beat Hooker like this, I think is a little surprising, but at the same time, this is the type of challenges that we wanted to see Chandler take in the UFC, where sure, there's a stigma when you come from a different promotion that, okay, now you're in the big leagues. Well, Chandler passed one of his first tests to show that he belongs in the big leagues.
Yeah.
And, I'm excited. What do you think's next for Chandler? I mean, he just beat number 6 ranked Hooker, who, is no easy fight for anybody. Yeah. And he knocked him out fairly quickly. Who would you like to see Chandler fight next?
Michael Chandler versus Charles Oliveira would be a good fight. Michael Chandler versus Justin Gaethje would be a good fight.
Yeah.
Michael Chandler versus Dustin Poirier is a good fight.
Mm-hmm.
If they want to give him one more shot to prove himself, maybe Michael Chandler versus Tony Ferguson. Who knows? Yep. I feel like all these are good fights. We don't know. Maybe Dan Hooker also He was in a war with Paul Felder. He was in a war with Dustin Poirier. Maybe that caught up to him.
Yeah.
Because those were 5-round wars.
Yes, they
where
were.
he was taking a lot of punishment in those fights. So
I think the Felder one was 3 rounds.
Was it 3 rounds?
I think so, because they were on the undercard.
Oh, it might have been 3 rounds.
Might have been 3 rounds. But still, it was a war.
Yeah.
3-round war, 5-round war. It's still, war. Like you said, it could have caught up to him. Or maybe he didn't want to go the war route with Chandler. He wanted to use his distance, use his range, and he just wasn't able to. What sucks, man, for Hooker is this whole, post-fight having to go into quarantine for a month before he could go home to his family. It sucks. You feel gutted for him. All the training time, all the time away from his family as is. You take a tough loss like this, and now he has to wait a month before he could go back home to his family. It sucks, man. It really sucks, but it's the sacrifices fighters make. It's the stuff that people don't see. People see what happens inside the octagon, but after the fights, before the fights, they don't see any of that. And I feel gutted for Hooker. Maybe if you lose a close decision or you have some success and then you get caught with something. He just didn't have anything, like you said earlier. He had nothing in this fight, and after a performance like that and having to sit in quarantine for a month before you could go see your family, it's going to be tough. But I hope his head is held high. He's still one of the best at 155, at least the top 10 in the UFC, and I think he can still make for some great fights.
Yeah, definitely.
And be a threat to these to some of these guys. By no means am I saying he's finished, but he could definitely be a threat and work his way back up to the top of 155. Moving on to the undercard. On the undercard, we saw a couple good fights too. We saw Muradov beat Sanchez with a vicious, like a right hook to the neck area. And it just wobbled Sanchez really, really bad. If you guys go look it up and watch it. Excuse me. It was at range. It was a counter right hook, and it just hit him. But like in this area of the neck, it didn't really hit him in the head and the neck. And he just wobbled like crazy, and Muradov went in for the stoppage. Referee, I think, did a great stoppage. Excuse me, did a great job at stopping the fight. In that moment. Any thoughts on Muradov?
Not really. This guy he packed some serious power. I mean, it looked like Sanchez was winning that fight, and in the blink of an eye, he lands one good shot on the neck, and let me tell you, he landed another good 10 strikes. I'm gonna say knees, elbows, uppercuts, hooks. He threw everything but the kitchen sink at the guy, and he got him out of there. So when he has somebody hurt, I mean, there's no question he's going to finish him.
Like you said, Sanchez put on a great performance. He looked really good. I thought, he was probably winning. He looked very calm, relaxed in there, very technical. And he just got caught with that big punch. But Muradov was throwing some haymakers the whole fight. He was looking for that knockout. I
mean, after he landed that hook on the neck, he threw this like switch knee. And that landed flush, man. I thought that was going to drop Sanchez, but
he didn't go down.
No, he didn't. And he just...
I don't think he went down, right? He got stopped he was standing on the cage.
Yeah, he got stopped on his feet. Yeah. I mean, he was wobbled, but he just didn't go down, which is weird. It's crazy.
Also on the undercard, we had Joanne Calderwood beat Jessica Eye. Any thoughts on this fight?
Nah. I mean, I thought Calderwood put her combinations together very well. Mm-hmm. She was able to just mix it up. She was able to be very calculated, and I feel like she was able to always be one step ahead of Jessica Eye, and just was able to land the cleaner shots, and was always just a step ahead of her, and was just too fast, too fluent in the stand-up game for Jessica Eye.
Jessica Eye, I think, is taking steps back in her career. She looked very sloppy to me. You talk about Calderwood and how, she looked fluid in her combinations. I did not look comfortable in there. She did not. So, I mean, hopefully they could get some of that stuff figured out and work on her combinations and her being a little more comfortable in the octagon. But she looked very, very sloppy, very, very uncomfortable in there. And against somebody like Calderwood, you can't, go in like that. You got to go in confident, calm, be able to do what you got to do. But she couldn't do anything she wanted. Yeah. Calderwood fought a great fight. And I think one of the big upsets we had, I think Chandler was a betting upset. I wasn't surprised that he beat Hooker, but that was a betting upset. Porier, of course, with a big upset. But I believe her name is Marina Rodriguez. Upsets Amanda Ribas by knockout. Catches her with a crazy right hand, puts her down.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Herb Dean, because God, every time something happens, it seems to be Herb Dean.
Herb Dean needs to wake the hell up, because Amanda Ribas was out on her feet, and Herb Dean, it looked like he was about to stop that fight. It looked like Amanda Ribas didn't know where she was, and Herb Dean is just there sucking his thumb.
Dude, but okay.
And I'm sick of it.
Like, dude, he could suck his thumb, but don't suck your thumb that close to the action.
Exactly. It's ridiculous.
Rodriguez is on top of Ribas, punching away. Herb Dean gets in close, and Rodriguez, I think out of respect, like not wanting to throw extra punches, stops and gets off of her, and Ribas holds on to the leg and gives Ribas a chance to get back up, and Herb Dean's like, no, I didn't stop the fight, but.
And then right after that, when he says, I didn't stop the fight, she comes with another right hand that completely flatlines Ribas, because she was out on her feet at that point.
Unnecessary right hand.
Yeah, unnecessary, man. She didn't know where she was at that point. She couldn't even block that.
Exactly. So blame Herb Dean for that right hand. Herb Dean is one of the best referees, but for some reason, every time something happens,
it's
Herb Dean. So I mean, we just have like. One time, okay, but this is like constant,
Yeah,
and
it's been pretty bad. You know what? Justin Gaethje. Well, it wasn't Herb Dean, but it was Justin Gaethje versus Khabib. Justin Gaethje tapped like 5 times, and the ref still didn't stop it until he went out. I was like, "Come on, man!
Yeah,
you gotta be. This is ridiculous. You're right in front of the action. You saw it. We saw it.
Yeah.
So I don't know. These refs gotta get their act together.
Yeah. The Cejudo Cruz. Well,
yeah. What? Tell him what happened with Dominic Cruz was accusing the ref. What's his name?
Keith. Shoot, I forgot his last name.
Keith
something. Yeah, Keith. But he always has the high turtleneck shirt because he's all tatted up.
Yeah, Dominic Cruz accused him of being drunk during the fight with Dominic Cruz versus Henry Cejudo. I guess in the locker room or whatever, Dominic Cruz, was asking him some questions, and he could smell the alcohol on him, is what he's claiming, and he was saying that he wasn't looking at him in the eye. I guess he was just trying to avoid him, maybe whatever, but he accused him of being drunk. So
those are serious accusations.
Yeah, those are serious stuff.
This is $1 million business, multi-million-dollar business. $1 million fights, and for stuff like that to be happening, serious allegations. But anyways, congrats to Marina Rodriguez. I know just because the fight wasn't stopped, but she's still she dominated after landing that big right hand. I mean, any other notes on UFC 257? I thought it was overall a pretty great card.
I did want to bring up, let's see, Khalil Roundtree versus Marcin Prachnio. Yeah. Oh man, these guys went at it. Let me tell you, this was a fight.
Yep.
In round 2, these guys were trading. Khalil Roundtree hurt him several times in that second round. I don't know how Prachnio stayed up, but somehow he did, and then Prachnio ends up winning the fight. So people, if you guys want to see a good fight, you need to look up Khalil Roundtree versus Marcin Prachnio. ESPN
Plus, # not a sponsor. But any other?
Brad Tavares pulling up the upset apparently on betting lines. He was an underdog, or was he a favorite?
He was the favorite. Somebody put big money on the guy Brad Tavares fought.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but Brad Tavares came out on top.
Okay. Hey, what's your comments on the guy that scaled a couple of hotel rooms and pulled off his bracelet and got cut from the UFC because apparently he snuck a bag into somebody's locker room or something.
Into his locker. So you're the one that told me this story actually, where
what's his name?
I totally forgot.
Hold
you
on,
could look it up.
But
while I tell the story, apparently Dana White, day before the weigh-ins, if not weigh-in day, but because they're in Abu Dhabi, different time zones. I think it was a day or two before the weigh-ins. This fighter and his team cut off their wristbands, so they're in quarantine.
Sorry to cut you off. The UFC fighter's name is Ottman Azatar.
Well, Azatar, former UFC fighter. Azatar, apparently him and his team cut off their wristbands, which, showed that they had tested negative and they were in part of the bubble, the UFC bubble, to prevent COVID being spread, things like that. And they somehow gave the wristbands to somebody who was not in the bubble. That person walked into the hotel. They had taped up the wristbands and walked into the hotel, walked into a room, like came out of the window and like shimmied across to like the next room or something like that to drop off a bag into Azatar, right? Azatar's room. When they approached the guy, when security approached the guy who had gone to drop off the bag, the guy didn't want to stop. Eventually they looked at the cameras, they saw where he went. And Azatar his fight was canceled and he was cut from the UFC.
Yeah.
Which is, I didn't see any motive, like any conversation with Azatar. Like, what were you doing? What was going on? Like, what happened? Give us your side of the story. All we know is that they broke the protocol and Dana White said, all right, you're out, and cut him on the spot.
Yeah, that surprised me actually, because for Dana White to just cut somebody like that. Dana White's known for not taking shit.
Yeah, because I'm not surprised at all.
Because when Paul Daly cheap shotted
Koscheck.
Yeah, Josh Koscheck. Paul Daly was a top guy in the 170-pound division, I believe. Mm-hmm. And after that, he cut him on the spot, and he said he'll never fight in the UFC again. And he never fought in the UFC again.
Nope.
And Paul Daly was a top prospect.
Yeah.
Coming up. Real talented guy.
What was I going to say? Yeah, I'm not surprised Dana White cut him, because with COVID and everything going on, the protocols are in place for a reason.
That was a serious offense that he did.
Yeah, that guy could have, say that person or the team or the people that got in with the wristbands, one of them had COVID. Yeah. And they give it to the Azatar, and then his opponent gets it, and then let's say his opponent is teammates with somebody else on the card, and then they get it, and then their opponent gets it, and then that team gets it, and it just, dude,
it's like a big cluster.
Yeah, that's how stuff spreads. So yeah. I'm not surprised Dana White took made a big decision and cut him. Trust me, the UFC I don't think is gonna put up with stuff like that, especially if you're pretty much not known yet by the audience. So
do you think he was in pressure of anybody, somebody telling him to cut him? Like somebody telling Dana White to cut him?
I don't think so.
Because of that offense? Or do you think Dana White just made his own executive decision?
Yeah, I think Dana White's the type of guy, and like you said, he's not going to take shit from anybody. So, or shit like that at least. So if he knows a guy's breaking protocol and doing it without much, caution or just like no Fs were given. Right. They just did it because they wanted to and they felt like they could. Who knows what that could lead to in the future. So yeah. I think, he definitely did the right thing. Sucks for Azatar, but hey, protocols are set in place for a reason, and especially under COVID, you got to be careful.
Yeah, so if you're a UFC fighter, definitely don't break protocol, because you're out of a job.
It's not worth it. It's not. And
it's really not.
Anybody, any sport, any business or whatever your job is, if you're in quarantine, you have COVID protocols, don't break them. Their protocols are in place for a reason. I know some people don't like them. Some people like to be rebellious, but there's a reason why, at least in California, everything's shut down, because we can't follow simple protocols.
Yeah, definitely.
And something like that could have shut down UFC 257.
Yeah, that's true.
So,
If the right things would have happened, they could have shut down the entire event.
Exactly. You're messing with a lot of money there just because you want to sneak in a bag who we don't even know what was in the bag. We don't know what any of that was about. We just know what happened. Excuse me, Dana White cut him, and that's that. Any last comments on UFC 257?
Not really. I think we covered most of it. I hope everybody liked our little insight on it. You know, I'll be the first to say I'm not a professional fighter. So the whole thing about me saying that they're dropping their hands to their pocket and everything, I mean, we were around boxing our whole life. So we know certain things that trainers tell people. So that we're just giving you guys some insight. Hopefully you guys like it.
And make sure you guys subscribe, like, drop a comment. To those that do, we appreciate you guys. We see all the support. And if you can, you know, like we said, drop a like, subscribe. It's a free way to help out the podcast. We just to get the word out. We're not getting paid for this or anything. We just we started this because my brother and I just, you know, sit and talk about sports all the time. Anyway, so might as well, you know, put some of this knowledge out to you guys. We'll have another podcast out if you're watching this before the boxing one. We'll have one covering Showtime Championship Boxing that also happened at the same time as UFC 257. So keep a lookout for that. And we'll have our NFL post-game analysis on Sunday night. You know, we won't preview the Super Bowl yet, but we'll go over the NFC and AFC championship games. So thank you guys for watching another episode of the A8 Sports Podcast, and we'll talk to you guys next time.
Thanks a lot, guys.